Newsroom, I'm Don Ma. A suspect has been arrested in the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. 22-year-old Utah resident Tyler Robinson is now in custody. An update from the FBI and local officials. Utah's governor mentioned preparing affidavits to pursue the death penalty. We discuss with a legal analyst. And mourners across the country are paying tribute to Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. Plus, an MSNBC analyst is fired after seeming to imply that Kirk brought this upon himself. How did Charlie Kirk's work reshape the youth political landscape? What does Charlie's assassination say about the political environment today or the society that it's in, the state? We discuss this with an analyst.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Charlie Kirk shooting suspect is a third-year student in the electrical apprenticeship program at Dixie Technical College in St. George, Utah. This is according to a spokesperson from Utah Valley University. And officials are saying he's in the suspected killer, that is, conservative activist of Charlie Kirk, now in custody. Utah Governor Spencer Cox just gave an update to the public a short while ago. We're now going to NTD's Arian Pasdar for more.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox on Friday giving more details on the chase after the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk. The suspect is being identified as a young man named Tyler Robinson.
Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU.
The suspect's roommate showed investigators apparent screenshots of messages Robinson had sent prior to the incident.
These messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
The governor says the attack was a political assassination, while also talking about God, a big part of Charlie's life.
Every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us.
Robinson doesn't appear to have any criminal history, according to state records reviewed by Reuters. He was a registered voter, but was not affiliated with a political party, according to state voter records. Arian Pasdar, NTD News.
President Trump appeared on Fox and Friends this morning. He weighed in on the suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk.
I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him in custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant. There was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him in.
Trump also said he spoke with Charlie Kirk's wife yesterday, saying that she is devastated by her husband's murder. Trump said she is heartbroken, but still wants to keep Turning Point USA going. Turning Point is the nonprofit founded by Kirk. The president also addressed crime, mentioning a new target city for federal law enforcement.
We're going to straighten out the crime in these cities. He said, sir, Memphis would be good because he's on the board of FedEx. He said, when I walk 1 block to my hotel, they won't allow me to do it. They put me in an armored vehicle with bulletproof glass to take me 1 block. He said, it's so terrible. I said, let me ask you a question. So we're going to Memphis. I'm just announcing that now, and we'll straighten that out.
National Guard?
National Guard and anybody else we need. And by the way, we'll bring in the military, too, if we need it.
Trump said both the mayor is happy and the governor is happy about the pending deployment. The mayor is a Democrat and the governor is a Republican. Trump said the city is deeply troubled and that they're going to fix that just like they did in Washington, where he sent in the National Guard and surged federal law enforcement. Trump has openly discussed sending troops to crime-plagued cities like Chicago and Baltimore. He says he would have preferred going to Chicago, but suggested it was a hostile place with what he described as professional agitators. Joining us now is Matt Klink, Republican strategist and political analyst. So Charlie Kirk's murderer is in custody. The suspect, that is in custody. So, Matt, can I ask you, what's been going through your mind the past few days, and what's going through your mind now?
I think the thing that's going through my mind more than anything is just why. And hopefully now that we have a suspect in custody, we can at least find out the why. I think that the rawness of someone like Charlie Kirk, who, Charlie Kirk was not a fire and brimstone, rabble rouser kind of a public speaker. He was more of the intellectual who wanted to debate all comers. So I think that a lot of people will be healed by learning the why, and hopefully folks on both sides of the aisle, on the left and the right, will tone down the rhetoric once we get some rationale for why this individual or alleged individual in custody assassinated Charlie Kirk.
So in terms of why, earlier this morning there was a press conference, and looking at the potential motives in this case, given the new information. So we know that the suspect's statement saying that Charlie Kirk was full of hate, this is what the suspect is saying, full of hate and spreading hate. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is probably indicative of his feelings toward Mr. Kirk. However, we don't know if it's part of a broader, philosophy or not. And I think that it would be harmful to speculate one way or the other. I think that we have to be we have a responsibility as people who comment on the news, or at least I feel I do, to make sure that we talk about what we know. And right now we know that a bright light in the Republican Party, in the conservative movement, and someone who motivated and mobilized millions of college-age youth has been taken from us abruptly. It's not a time to celebrate. It's a time for mourning. And I think that, ultimately Charlie Kirk's legacy will live on. And we serve that well by engaging in robust debate with people whose views that we don't necessarily agree with.
Matt, let me just get a couple more comments from you on the latest right now. It took a little over 30 hours from what we heard from the criminal's actions, the suspect's actions, to him being in custody. Your comments on the speed of this process?
Yeah, look, I think that this is a good example of the effectiveness of federal, state, and local law enforcement. That with the aid of technology, the fact that everybody has cell phones, they were able within 33 hours to go from, really casting a wide net to identify a suspect to having someone in custody. And I listened to that press conference with Governor Cox from Utah today, and the conversations on Discord that they have between the suspect and his roommate, information from family members, it all seems like, a pretty rock solid case. So let's just hope that happens. And I think we're going to find out a lot more about the suspect who's in custody right now in the coming days and weeks. And that will be really, really important.
What does it tell you about the overall sentiment here, the public, being so willing to help in this case? As we heard, thousands and thousands of tips were sent to the FBI.
Yeah, I think that they mentioned upwards of 11,000 tips. I think that that's really, really important. It just goes to show that, excuse me, it just goes to show that the American people want to do the right thing.
How important was it that the suspect was caught quickly in the sense of deterring similar future potential actions? What message does this send to those who might try to do this again?
Well, I think that it shows that if you're going to commit a heinous crime like this, that the odds are overwhelming that you're going to be caught. I think it also is important that he didn't commit suicide like other people have done. So we do have someone in custody.
All right. Do you think how has social media played in all this? What role has it played? Governor Cox suggested, turning off phones, spending time with family. Do you think social media companies are equipped to handle moments like this?
Excuse me, I'm sorry for coughing. No,
It's all
I mean,
right.
look, that social media can be a massive benefit, but this was a case. I mean, there were videos of the actual bullet going through Mr. Kirk that, frankly, were beyond the pale. Social media can be a great. Its powers can be used for good. Unfortunately, it can also be used for evil. And there were some horrid comments put out about Charlie Kirk. There were some just horrible, horrible videos that demonstrated the violence of this political assassination. And that's where social media is just, it's not helpful. And I think that what Governor Cox is saying is that, real engagement between people, not on a phone screen or a computer screen is always more productive. And hopefully, I mean, look, that's what Charlie Kirk really did. He got out and he talked to people in uncomfortable environments. And I think that we should learn from the lesson that Charlie Cook provided, that we want to have conversations and we shouldn't shy away from difficult conversations. So I think that that was Governor Cox's main point in the press conference today.
So Matt, just one last thing. And earlier you were talking about, along the lines of how do we lower the temperature in politics today? And Senator Elizabeth Warren was asked a similar question, and she said in part that it starts with the president.
Yeah, that's a tad bit hypocritical. The coarseness of American politics didn't start with Donald Trump, and it won't end with Donald Trump. And I think that let let he who casts the first stone, to paraphrase the Bible. I do think that all sides can look at themselves. America, throughout its history, has had political divisions. And it's unfortunate that now it seems to be more common to fight against those divisions with violence instead of words. But it's not, it's oversimplifying a complex problem to say, well, it's Donald Trump's fault, which, I can look at some pretty harmful things that Elizabeth Warren has said and that a number of Democrats have said. I think what in general needs to happen is that the rhetorical comments, calling people dictator and authoritarian and Hitler, comments like that, that's not coming from Donald Trump. That's coming from the left entirely. That needs to calm down, and I think that the Republicans need to soften some of their rhetoric. I will say, though, that we should not shy away from talking about issues that make us uncomfortable. That is what has been happening on college campuses, and that's largely coming from the progressive left, not from the right. So we should not shy away from difficult issues. I do agree that we should lower the political, personal, rhetorical attacks.
Just real quick, what is the legacy that Charlie Kirk is leaving behind?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Charlie Kirk, for his 31 years, he maximized his impact. He mobilized and spoke to millions of young Americans, letting them know that the rigid liberal progressive orthodoxy on college campuses need not be the only topic of conversation, and that it is perfectly acceptable to engage in debate, in fact, even heated debate with people that you disagree with, and it needs to be done. That's what a healthy democracy is all about. And I think that that is the legacy that will be left. that Charlie Kirk, the left doesn't have anybody like him. And I think that it would be very, very impossible for them to do it. So I think that his legacy will be picked up by many, many others, and it is too big to quiet at this point. He started a movement that has changed America.
And if anything, it's made him more popular now. Well, Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, Utah's governor mentioned preparing affidavits to pursue the death penalty. We discuss this with the legal analyst after the break.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king size, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
£6 prescription glasses from Select Specs are always great value. There are no offer codes or first-time customers only. Anyone can buy them, anytime. And you can upgrade to Select Specs Express for next-day delivery. And with deferred payments, you can spread the cost.
See now, pay later with Select Specs £6 specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options available at selectspecs.com/£6.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjiong Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Two universities fired employees for their remarks about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Military officials are also saying they're aware of inappropriate social media posts. Middle Tennessee State University said it had fired one of its employees who had direct contact with students. The University of Mississippi's chancellor said it had also terminated employment for one of its staff members. Baylor University said this week that it was aware of and disappointed by a comment a graduate student made about the shooting. Baylor announced that it had declined to take any disciplinary action against the student. The Coast Guard said it was investigating inappropriate social media activity by one of its personnel. Navy Secretary John Phelan said he was aware of posts about Kirk. He added that the Navy would swiftly and decisively deal with employees whose actions discredit the department. The NFL held a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk ahead of Thursday night's game in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The founder and president of Turning Point USA was shot and killed Wednesday while speaking at a Utah university. Ahead of the moment of silence, the stadium announcer said the NFL condemns violence and will take all of us to stop hate. Charlie Kirk supporters in Australia held a candlelight vigil today at Sydney's Hyde Park. Mourners expressed love and heartache following the assassination of the Turning Point USA founder.
I really feel for his wife and little children, and yeah, it's just not the way to deal with differences of opinion, to shoot a man dead in the prime of his life.
I come here to in solidarity and support for Charlie Kirk. I've been following Charlie since COVID times, and I do think he's a great man.
And I think it's tragic what happened to Charlie Kirk. What a wonderful young man he was. I've got 6 granddaughters, 1 son. If I had a son like him, I can't imagine how proud I would be. I think he's a wonderful person.
Joining us now to discuss the latest on the Charlie Kirk assassination is attorney Gerard Filitti. He's a senior counsel at the Lawfare Project and a political strategist. Always great to see you, Gerard. So your reaction to the news that the suspect has been caught, what are you thinking now?
Well, it was not unexpected, and it's a relief for many people that the justice system works and swiftly apprehended the alleged shooter. And now we need to see what his motivation was, what drove this horrific act of assassination, and what we can learn about this to come together as a country and heal so that we avoid more instances of politically motivated violence.
Can you comment on the speed of the process? It took a little over 30 hours from the criminal act to having the suspect in police custody.
I think the speed was very appropriate, given that there was no immediate video of the shooting, and that the police and the FBI worked very diligently to put together images and gather evidence of who this individual was and apprehend him. I think we were all relieved that this worked very quickly.
And what about the public here? So willing to help, right? In this case, thousands upon thousands of tips being sent to the FBI in the past couple of days.
We always appreciate it when the public is involved. I think that we've seen in the last few years, the public is very much interested in tracking down the identity of people who commit horrific acts. We saw this with Luigi Mangione. We saw this with other high-profile attacks. Internet sleuths are very good at digging into social media and postings and using AI as well to identify or help law enforcement identify the perpetrators of violent attacks.
So can you comment on some potential signs that are pointing to the shooter, possibly carrying this out because he didn't like Charlie and what he said, essentially for exercising his First Amendment rights?
Well, I think that's the issue. I think that the issue will be determining exactly how radicalized this alleged shooter was and what motivated him to do this. What we understand now from what's being reported is that there was a shift in this young man's perception to the point that he had an intense hatred of Charlie Kirk, allegedly, and that this may have been a motivating factor. And we do need to see what this person posted, who he was influenced by, how he went down this path of extremism that led from a normal middle-class kid to someone who was willing to execute someone for their views, for exercising their speech right on a college campus.
How important was it that the suspect was caught quickly in the sense of deterring future potential actions like this? What message does this send to those who might try to use this violence again?
From the very beginning, from the moment Charlie Kirk was shot, we saw that there was attention from the highest level of government, from President Trump himself, interested in apprehending and bringing to justice the people who committed this act. This is really a very formative and very traumatic event for the entire country. This was a very high-profile individual who was seen as a political leader, who was seen as someone who was an activist for democracy, for the principles of free speech, for values that we all hold dear. So we had very high level attention from the president, from the FBI, from the attorney general, and from local law enforcement in Utah to find the perpetrator, to send a message that we will not tolerate politically motivated violence in America.
Now, I want your comments on this. Utah's governor mentioned preparing affidavits to pursue the death penalty in this case. Can you explain how the death penalty process works in Utah?
The death penalty in Utah is not automatic for a capital offense for murder. There needs to be some aggravating factor. Here, it could well be the fact that the alleged shooter put other people at jeopardy when he killed Kirk by virtue of shooting into a crowd, by virtue of the panic that ensued, that he endangered many, many lives. That's enough to trigger a death penalty procedure, because it's not just one murder. It is endangering the safety of many people.
How does the evidence, how could it, shape how the outcome of this case might look like? That's including surveillance footage, family testimony, digital messages?
It'll include all of it. I think that law enforcement was very diligent in putting together the digital trail that this accused shooter had, looking at Discord and other social media platforms where he posted messages, allegedly, in which he actually took responsibility for the shooting, in which he described where he left the rifle. They will also look at forensic evidence, the footprint and handprint, any fingerprints that were left on the scene and on the shell casings that he removed after he shot Kirk. They will look at the video images and pictures, putting together a whole collection, crowdsourcing essentially, of everyone in the area, every security camera. We've already seen cameras collected even from people's doorbell cameras that trace the shooter's whereabouts and his progress. So all of this together goes into showing that this is in fact the person who committed the act and proving it beyond a reasonable doubt.
In general, how does a suspect's motive and premeditation factor into sentencing?
Motive and premeditation, the premeditation it goes to proving the elements of a first degree of a capital offense. So that's very important. And I think that the prosecution will try to show, and probably will successfully show, that there was planning that went into this, that there was a careful recon of the area, that there was intent to commit this act, not a spur of the moment decision. In terms of other motivating factors, motive, for example, you don't need to prove motive when you have strong direct evidence that this person committed the crime, but it is helpful in showing why, in discussing the broader issue of radicalization and what we as a country can do to address it. So the prosecutor doesn't need to prove motive. It's enough to have direct evidence, and I think there's plenty of it here.
So officials have said that the shooter is of college age, but he was not a student of UVU. In general, however, how have universities and college campuses changed over the past years in terms of ideology or student behavior?
Well, we've seen a lot of radicalization and extremism on college campuses, and a lot of activism that has gone beyond peaceful speeches and protests into very violent and aggressive behavior. Especially after October 7, we've seen this on college campuses across America, with students having violent altercations, with taking over buildings, with erecting encampments and barricades on college campuses. They've become very intolerant of any speech that does not agree with theirs, and this has become aggressive and violent behavior. So what we're seeing, even though this was not a student at this college campus, it conforms with what we've seen across the nation, which is an increasing radicalization and extremism by young people in the education system that don't just speak their views, but take violent actions in support of them.
And we've seen a rising anti-Semitism on campuses. Can you talk to us about the patterns of harassment a bit more, intimidation of Jewish students that they're facing?
The harassment and intimidation against Jewish students is very similar. It's actually one of the issues that Charlie Kirk was known to address. Seeing on college campuses that you have this group of students who are inspired to support a foreign terrorist organization, Hamas, and the brutal attacks that they committed against Israelis and against Jews on October 7, what we've seen is exclusionary practices, discriminatory conduct by these terrorist supporters. We've seen radicalization to the point that even professors repeat terrorist propaganda in the classroom. And all of this is indoctrinating students into hate, and hate that's not just expressed in words, but in conduct. We've seen violent attacks, whether it's at Columbia University, at Harvard, at DePaul University, where there's litigation ongoing about students who were violently attacked just for being Jewish. We've seen speech go into violent conduct, and this is a pattern that we're seeing all across America.
So Governor Cox was talking about what is the off-ramp. How do we fix this situation?
I think the off-ramp is, in part, we need to do a deep dive into the education system, not just colleges and universities, but in the K-12 system. We see that teachers are foregoing their traditional role of teaching students how to think and instead telling them what to think. This is leading to indoctrination. This is bringing radical ideas into the classroom and basically making students much more aggressive in their viewpoints. And we need to address this by taking a look at the curriculum, taking a look at what's going on in classrooms and fixing it. We need to remove radical ideology from the classroom. And we also need to teach students that you can disagree with someone without resorting to violence, without resorting to discrimination. And how do we do that? We teach, but we also impose consequences on bad conduct. So every time you see a protest on a college campus that turns aggressive and colleges do nothing about it, that's encouraging more bad conduct. That's feeding into a system that leads to this kind of violence.
Okay, Gerard, we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
A tribute to Charlie Kirk's faith. What he said brought him the greatest joy and happiness. We talk about that when we come back.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Skylar, come here.
Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Or how did I get here? I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
A podcast called The Iced Coffee Hour interviewed Charlie Kirk about 2 months ago. One of the hosts, Jack Selby, asked Kirk how he wanted to be remembered, and Kirk pointed to his faith.
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
Kirk talked in that interview about how he started the debates on college campuses. He said he had been doing it for 13 years, just not on camera. He credited the Lord for his success.
The Lord has been so amazing to us and has blessed us in amazing ways. And so I never would have imagined, like, honestly, ever since I met Foster Freeze, that we'd be somewhat of kind of like a household name. I'm in a very blessed position where things really come to me, where I used to have to go to things.
Kirk's faith played a significant role in the values he lived by.
If you're a young person here and you say, boy, you know, what do I want to do for my life? Honestly, you should get married as young as possible and have as many kids as possible. Period. Reject the siren song of modernity.
I can tell you I'm super blessed. I have the best wife in the world. We have an amazing life. Building a family is the coolest thing ever. And my prayer for all of you is that you one day can do that. The greatest joy I've ever had is coming home to my little daughter running up to my leg. There's nothing that even comes close to it. Not flying on Air Force One, not meeting with presidents. That's all that pales in comparison to your little girl coming up and squeezing your leg.
Because of his faith, Kirk lived a happy, fulfilled life.
What makes me so happy is I get to impact people's lives. I get to speak truth. I have purpose. I get to help save the civilization. And then I also get to make some money while doing it. And that, quite honestly, is the most enormous blessing.
Kirk talks about focus and purpose as keys to his happiness. In terms of politics, he says, if you're confused about which party to join, do this first.
Find out what you believe and why you believe it.
In the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, Utah's governor is warning of foreign interference exploiting the moment. He says countries like China and Russia are spreading disinformation online to stoke division and even violence in the U.S. Here's Governor Spencer Cox addressing the matter.
There is a tremendous amount of disinformation. We are tracking our team, the state team, and I'm sure the federal team as well. What we're seeing is our adversaries want violence. China, we have bots from Russia, China, all over the world that are trying to instill disinformation and encourage violence. I would encourage you to ignore those, to turn off those streams, and to spend a little more time with our families.
Cox's warning comes as Chinese commentators are weighing in on the violence here in America. Hu Xijin, a former editor of Chinese state-run media, posted online. He said after Charlie Kirk's assassination, conservatives may try to fight back. Many Chinese social media users echoed those views online as well, criticizing America's political system to stoke more division in the U.S. Chinese cyber attackers are escalating their campaign against the United States, this time by impersonating the Epoch Times newspaper to issue fake threats against federal agencies and even the White House. Hackers notified the Epoch Times of their threats, saying they sent emails posing as the newspaper, threatening bombings and shootings, and even claimed they would live stream violence online. Screenshots show the attackers filling out the White House Contact Us form using Epoch Times details. Similar threats were also allegedly sent to the CIA, the Justice Department, and local police. The Epoch Times, founded by practitioners of the persecuted spiritual group Falun Gong, condemned the impersonation as part of Beijing's broader intimidation strategy. In 2024, a political insider revealed a directive from Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping to suppress Falun Gong globally. The campaign's key targets were companies founded by practitioners of Falun Gong. She expressed particular frustration with international media organizations, which she said had become the main hostile force against the Chinese regime in the English-speaking world. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has an emotional message for all Americans following the assassination of Charlie Kirk in his state. Here's a clip from his presser earlier this morning.
There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even, especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those, and specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now.
How did Charlie Kirk's work reshape the youth political landscape? What does Charlie's assassination say about the political environment today or the state of our society? We have that and more after the break.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man, because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
Joining us now to discuss Charlie Kirk's legacy is Jeff Webb, founder of Varsity Spirit and president of the International Cheer Union. So first of all, Jeff, thank you for coming on the show today. How do you think Charlie was able to connect with young people in a way that, really had no precedent?
You're right, there was no precedent. I remind people that it wasn't that Charlie became an activist in the conservative youth movement. He pretty much founded it. And if you go back to his early days, and I've known him for a long time, when Turning Point was just getting started, most conservative college students in particular, were lonely on their campuses. They were criticized. They were made fun of. They're by their professors. They were demeaned. And Charlie created an environment where being a conservative, being true to your values, conservative values, was okay. And through the Turning Point events, I saw it, the very early events, when these kids started coming together from around the country, small groups at first, but they were there. They had their friends, they had their peers, they had support. I mean, it was an incredible celebration. And that positivity that really Charlie just exuded, was passed on to them. Then they would go back to their campuses and they would organize and they would bring more people in. Then the next year they bring a bigger group to the Turning Point Conference. And it really became this organic machine that did really create the conservative youth movement in this country.
So Jeff, you've had numerous interactions with him in the past. Why do you think Charlie believed so strongly? Why was he so passionate about open debate?
I think part of it was that when he began to get things organized on the college campuses, he got so much pushback. And I know he felt like that so many of these young people were just, repeating things that they have heard their professors say. When you realize that probably over 90% of college professors, certainly in politics, social studies, so on, are liberal, that you could see, he could understand why they were more or less brainwashed. And I think that, again, he saw that the lack of free speech on these campuses was really hurting these young people. It wasn't giving them the experience to make up their own mind about things and to see different angles and different paths for their future. And so that free speech became part of his message, and he was a warrior for it, that's for sure.
And you mentioned that he had such a huge impact, and I'm wondering this myself. How could Charlie's loss affect this conservative movement?
Well, you've heard people say in the last 2 days, and I think it's absolutely true, that Charlie was a generational talent and generational leader. I do believe, I fear that our country has lost a future president. But I think that no one can take his place. I think all of the other people in the movement, even the other leaders, would admit that. But I think that that probably because of his inspiration, they'll be even more motivated to do the best that they can do, to support each other, to make sure the movement goes forward. Maybe without him at the very top, is certainly his spirit, the legacy that he left, the example, the inspiration, I think will help others to rise up and make the movement even greater.
And his wife, according to President Trump today, was also saying that they would like to see Turning Point USA continue, right? And Charlie, he was not shy about his faith. You've talked to him. You've had many instances where you had a personal look, perhaps, into how he behaves. How did he balance faith, family, and public work?
Probably better than anyone I know. He was an amazing person. I mean, he was extremely intelligent. He had almost endless energy, and he had a great idea from his upbringing, I think, and eventually the things that he discovered himself about what it took to live a good life. And I think he's the perfect example for so many young people, well, people of all ages, about how to balance the things that you just talked about. And also how to really be effective, how to make a difference, how to be strong, how to be courageous, but also how to be gracious and kind. It's just the person he was. He was a remarkable, remarkable person.
So a number of us here and at our sister media, the Epoch Times, have interviewed Charlie. Me personally, I haven't interviewed him. I'm wondering, is there a side of Charlie that the public does not see, or perhaps his public persona is an accurate reflection of who he truly was?
I think it depends on what you mean by public persona. Certainly, if you were around him, even at some of these rallies, even when he was debating and people were calling him names, he never took the bait. He never made it personal. He never insulted anyone. And he was also funny. He had a great sense of humor. He was a warm person, fun to be around, charismatic, certainly, but also down to earth. So I think it's hard to find something about Charlie that you wouldn't really like. And I think even people who disagreed with him philosophically, once they got to know him, they realized what a great person and, again, what a kind and friendly person he was.
Can you talk to us about the political environment that we are in today in light of this assassination?
Yeah, well, I think the Governor Cox of Utah today said it right when he addressed his comments to young people, saying, the political world, when we think of the political world today, what we really see is rage. And I think there's some truth to that. Unfortunately, we're divided just about right down the middle. And that's a recipe for, very difficult situation. I think that everybody is talking now. Maybe this is the spark that at least, if we could all emulate Charlie's approach on either side, forget about which side you take, but emulate his approach of being strictly about the policy, about philosophy, not about winning personally, not about your ego, not about putting somebody else down. Yes, have your strong opinions, fight for those opinions, but violence, personal attack, personal insult has no place. If we can just begin to move in that direction and emulate the way he acted, I think we'll all be better off.
Jeff, a lot of people I talk to about this, they're telling me they're hopeful, they're optimistic about America, direction of the country in the long run. Me personally, I'm hopeful as well. But Jeff, what happens to America when we lose the ability to have civil discourse without the fear of violence?
I think it becomes a very difficult and dark place. I think freedom of expression has been a hallmark of our society for 250 years. And but to have that kind of freedom of expression, people have to feel safe. They have to feel that they can express themselves, that they can state their opinion, they can engage in dialogue without fear of, being, personally assaulted. And we have to make sure, and that could be a combination of people, talking it out, people making a difference. But, at some point, I heard Congressman Chafin say earlier today that at some point we have to look at the kind of dialogue where people are promoting and supporting and encouraging violence. That has to be unacceptable. That has to be illegal, because this is what you get. When you're out there calling people Nazis and a threat to democracy, someone who's just kind of on the edge emotionally, sometimes that's all it takes to push them over the edge. And unfortunately, we've seen a very horrific example of that in the last couple of days.
Jeff, I'll just ask you one more thing. What is the legacy that Charlie is leaving behind?
I think it's of hope. And I think for young people, I think it's that that they have seen through Charlie that, life can be good, that they can express themselves, that they can have confidence, that they have support, that they have friends. And I think it just creates, he just was such an inspirational leader that I think that kind of hope, that kind of confidence, that kind of commitment to do good things and to do the right thing, I think that's what his legacy is really all about.
Okay, Jeff, well said. Thank you for talking to us today.
Sure.
Messaging app Discord says the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk didn't plot the killing on its platform. The company added that the 22-year-old suspect did in fact have an account. Discord said in a statement that it has since taken down the account. Utah Governor Spencer Cox told a press conference this morning that the suspect's roommate had shown law enforcement incriminating messages sent on the app. Cox said some of the chat referred to the suspect's need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point and another about leaving that rifle in a bush. Discord said the messages were between the roommate and a third person, in which the roommate recounted details from a note left by the suspect. The company added that it condemned violence of any kind. President Trump remembering Charlie Kirk, and the president has a message to those who fear for their safety. We have that when we come back. Stay with us.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty tough, but Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life. They gave me the love that I needed. They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
Your $19 monthly gift is urgently needed to reach other young people who are facing unimaginable situations. Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible. Thank you for caring.
Buy your tickets now to the NTD International Classical Chinese Dance Competition. This September, top dancers from around the world will compete in skill and showcase their talent. Experience the richness and beauty of classical Chinese dance live on stage at the Sugarloaf Performing Arts Center, New York. Order your tickets now at dance.ntdtv.com.
For 65 years, Mathis Home has been helping